Hello, I wanted to share with you what I've been working on in design class so far. This was our first class of the semester, and we made our own sketchbooks. So this is mine, sewed together and bound, and the teacher gave us some exercises, prompts to work on with ink, and so she gave us the opportunity to just experiment with marks and recommended that we go to the library and check out some books. And this was the one that I checked out. I really like Alice Neal's work. She's an amazing painter, I think. And I didn't necessarily copy, but I was inspired by the marks in her work. This was one of her pieces that I quote unquote copied or was inspired by, and the goal of this assignment was just to experiment with marks and see what kinds of marks you can make. And as you can see, this was the inspiration from my drawing. Let's see if I can put them side by side. And it was just fun, even though it's design class, which is different from our drawing class. She just let us, explore what we found interesting. And, it's not a carbon copy of the drawing, but the focus was just on the composition and the mark making. Once you really look closely, you start to see, scribbles and cross-hatching of thin marks. And we explored how you can do that with the brush as well. Whereas before we were using what's called, I'm actually not sure what it's called, but it's like a dip pen. And it's really fun to use. You insert different tips into it, and then you dip it into ink. And it's a really fun tool. And also the brush, which we explored as well. And she gave us certain prompts to work from. It wasn't necessarily about what we were drawing. It was more about kind of the feeling, which is a very interesting way of working. This was actually inspired from this book, which has some really funny drawings in it. Just, thin kind of lines, but you can see the textures and they're very descriptive. And rather than focusing on what you're drawing, it's more about, I guess, how you depict it. And here it was this kind of radial composition, like a circular one. And I was trying to make the marks all kind of flow out from one point. And this is more of a rule of thirds composition, where you can see the faint lines that split it into thirds vertically and horizontally. And that was fun to work with. My favorite to do was portraits. We got to work on portraits of our classmates and from photos of each other. And it was just fun not to really focus on likeness as much, but instead to focus, I guess, just on the marks, on the feeling, on what you see. And, once you get lost in that, then it doesn't become about, trying to depict the person perfectly. You end up kind of finding the right forms, I think. But the real fun part for me, why I've learned to love portraiture, is because you can just really find the interesting forms in the face, in the eyes, and in just the shape and how you want it to feel. This was a more centered composition, and so everything kind of flows around the center. And obviously it's hard to, with ink, it's permanent. Whatever you put down, it's gonna stay there forever. But you can get different gradients and use more of a wet wash. And so it's just really fun to experiment with this. And I think with portraiture especially, and I guess anything, if you're describing something specific or not, it's really just about, I think, or at least in this assignment, just the marks you're making and the feeling behind what you see, what kind of strikes your attention, what evokes like a feeling of some kind, and you know, what's interesting to you. Here, this is from a photo of myself, and I wanted it to be radial again, radiating kind of from the eye, which Alice Neal does a lot. And you know, it's one thing to outline kind of the individual shapes and to be very particular about that. And you know, the professor talks about how that's a valuable skill, to be a bit more graphic, I guess, and minimalist. But when you focus more on the feeling, I guess the gesture, the idea of what you're drawing, how, you know, how does the eye feel in the shape that it is, and the way the marks flow around it, you know, the way the face is structured, and what you find interesting about it. So it's just a lot of fun. I highly recommend it. You know, you obviously don't have to make your own sketchbook. I might make a tutorial at some point. You can see mine's quite uneven, but that's just because cutting is not my strong suit. But it's just so much fun to like explore this kind of stuff, you know, because once you get into it, you realize that there is no right or wrong. You know, even if you are trying to depict something specific, it's just about how you try to depict it, what you're drawn to, and you know, just trying it. Like, I could talk about it endlessly and still not be able to describe, you know, what it really means to me and why I chose these marks and everything. And everyone has their own response to it. But it was a really fun class. I wanted to share with you all because I think it was the first time the teacher had really given specific instructions and allowed us at the same time to just branch out into our own thing and not be as technical about it as if it were a drawing class, and more about, I guess, the technique, but that being like an expressive quality of work. And she, you know, asked us to walk around, look at each other's, and it was so cool to see everyone's work because everyone's completely different. And she would point out, you know, look at what this person did. This is so interesting. Look at how they approached this versus that person over there. And it was like a learning process from each other. And at first I was really scared because it's like, it feels like people are being compared and it's nerve-wracking, but actually I think it's perfectly normal to look at each other's work, and it's not just during critiques when everyone's like showing their final projects. So yeah, I recommend, you know, if you have a sketchbook or a piece of paper or whatever, a pen, I think these dipping into ink is really fun. You know, any brush will do. It doesn't have to be like a high quality. There's no like, there are ink brushes, but they're not necessarily necessary. So yeah, it's just fun. Maybe go pick up a book by someone you admire, or, you know, a children's book with beautiful illustrations that you love, and just like look up close. What are those artists actually doing? Like, it seems like it's, you know, out of reach, but really there's a certain spontaneity to it. And once you really look at it and let yourself be inspired by it, you know, you can see the horizontal lines, you can see the circular ones, you can see where it's like overlapping different angled marks. And so it's just really fun to work like that. So anyway, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more content. I'm now in my second semester, and yeah, thanks so much for watching. Stay cozy.